A child is born in the purity of trust. Purity. That means they believe. We believed every single word our caregivers gave us, regardless of who they were. It didn't matter. An adult figure, okay? So you acknowledged. I'm sorry. So when I was young, I didn't do anything to stop the flow of negative emotional energy, because I didn't know there was another side to it. I just thought, oh no, this is it. I didn't say that in my 5-year-old head, but I didn't know any other information to draw from because I was born like you, knowledgeless. So if you're identifying, I don't want to say you, so I'll bring it back to me, and if you identify with that, acknowledge that stuff inside, internally, where your real speech is, okay? Don't worry about your speech as long as it's not evil words, if it comes from darkness on the outside, because there's a lot of spiritual predators out there now. There's very few left in the purity of their truth. And they have to go predator because they know no other way. They've been programmed to go predator, just like the moms and teachers and dads who encourage demonized transvestite fucking pedophilic transvestite men who are sexualizing a child's heart. That's pedophilia, motherfucker. It's the first part of subduing the child. It's the emotional deception of the human will removal formula pedophiles use on children, and also liars, but they don't use the entirety of the toolboxes. The tools in the toolbox, they don't. So a liar is not the same thing as a pedophile. Like the fucking... If your intent is to turn the truth into something else, into a darkness, to convince somebody else of this or that or whatever, shit, I don't know where I am. It's up there. Then that's working with the dark feminine of the evil spirit influence. That's his communication, the cunning deception of emotional manipulation of human truth and trust, leveraged by the fear of loss of something specific to the emotional need and its physical safety element, all the while targeting self-worth to lower it just enough to develop and maintain the puppet-puppeteer relationship dynamic between predator and prey. In this case, it's spiritual predator and prey. Do you identify with that? That came from your darkness. That came from your turning. Your turning isn't your fault. That's why you're let off the fucking hook. All you got to do is cleanse yourself. And if that isn't a gift that you can see that is the most valuable gift to you in the whole fucking world, then stay on the world. And don't go into spiritual thought now. Keep physical. And then you'll get to stay in the world that you love. But I promise you, you won't love it then. So, all you pedophilic faggots out there who want to sexualize a child's heart, turn back quickly or you're going to be fucked. You will never be reincarnated in a place where there's children. Do you understand me? Kindergarten. Do you understand me? Anybody with evil intent in them. That's the thing. You don't have to be a fucking pedophile to go evil. Evil words. Trying to make somebody feel terrible. That's an evil thing to do. Because you know what? They're full of purity of trust. And they'll believe you. Meanwhile, all you want is a fucking cigarette. But you're using the skill set of the dark feminine inside you to get that fucking cigarette. Or whatever the fuck it is, right? You know I know this because this is what I used to do, right? But the thing is, take the training and it's all gone. It's all erased. Except for the faggot part. I don't try to sexualize a child's heart, that's for sure. So truth and emotional response, where does it come from? Okay? Everybody, I ask people that and they all go, huh? What? Huh? Where does it come from? It comes through its conduit. The spiritual element of truth and emotional response comes through the conduit into our hearts that share the same frequency. That's the Earth's magnetic pulse. And our hearts who share the same magnetic pulse. So that's how truth and wisdom get into you. Truth and wisdom of the emotional truth of self, you see? But when somebody hacks onto that energy and influences you in the opposite and opposing way of emotional truth, which means they have to, first of all, deceive you and tell you how terrible you are to lower your self-worth. If your self-worth is intact, it's a waste of time. And if it's not intact, if it's not intact, then it's not a waste of time for this evil spirit influence that controls the emotional truth of self inside. Okay, so we have the truth and wisdom, the emotional truth, born in the moment in new experience, a spiritual daughter, waiting for the spiritual son to be born. Now, what's the spiritual son? The belief of the emotional truth of self, you see? And that's what we learn, ages 1 to 5. Everything is translated back into self. And acknowledgement inspires. Rejection kills your heart, kills the spirit, and invites the evil spirit influence in the secondary wisdom of the angry person's wisdom. There's 7 parts to it, but we're all familiar with anger. So when you get angry, know that you start calculating, fornicating, your heart's thought with that darkness to produce a dead child, to produce a dead or deadened emotional truth in yourself to say, yeah, I'm going to do it, even though it's wrong. If you say that or not to yourself, it doesn't matter. You know in your gut it's wrong. That's the thing about truth. She, the feminine element of the omnipresent God, Barbello, bursts that truth, and I forgot what I was going to say. And then speaks to you, showing you what the trouble is, what the turning is. And you have to say to your silence, who speaks to you in silence, and you speak back to your truth. It's communication between you and your feminine element with God, who's on loan to you, so you might be able to keep the spiritual elements that are scattered all over the fucking place now inside you. So truth and emotional response, and the first wisdom, emotional depth, knowing self. So, but how do you understand that cognitively? Emotional truth, getting hit by it and then feeling it. How do you do that? You intellectualize logic of the emotional truth rooted in your emotional wisdom to understand self better, to know self. See? And if it wasn't for the secondary wisdom, we wouldn't have any problem knowing ourselves, because our parents would be then not rejecting us and making sure they acknowledged us as children. The thing is, you're a parent now. If you are a parent or you're going to be a parent, and we all know how easy it is to become a parent by accident, then you're about to program your children in the rejection model of parenting that child. If it's the acknowledgement model of parenting the child, your child will be perfect in his duality, which is guaranteed on this planet. We can't escape it, apparently. No, I haven't seen an acknowledgement model of parenting ever, because I created it. So I don't know for sure what the end result would be if a child was programmed through the balance determined self skill set. You see, the balance determined self knows self. The selfishly determined self doesn't know self and is far, far gone. The pleasing determined self is just as far, far gone, because they both meet their needs selfishly. Pleasing is selfish. What? Yeah, it's a selfish behavior to please everybody, which is lying to everybody, because you're not meeting your own needs. So you lie to everybody in establishing a darkness, but you feel it's safety. So I'll please them so they won't reject me. That's what it is. The rejection, though, brings three negative um, emotional energies into your heart: humiliation, embarrassment, uh, and ridicule. We feel those things in our heart when rejected. So, in the rejection model of being parented, if I'm feeling that as a 4 or 5 year old, then I'm going to believe it because I'm full of innocence and I don't have darkness in me yet. Full of innocence and therefore trust. Because what's the spirit of truth? It's trust. That's the Holy Spirit. There's no other way any other form of type of spirit can be the Holy Spirit unless it's trust, a stem result of the root of truth.